Now, as Republicans begin their convention today, one of the president's most loyal advisors says she is leaving the White House. Kellyanne Conway says she will step down from her post by the end of the month, which is, of course, just a few days away. Conway says she is making the move so she can focus on her family. Her husband, George Conway, says he will also leave his position at the anti-Trump Republican group, the Lincoln Project. Now, the announcements come after their 15-year-old daughter tweeted over the weekend she was pushing for emancipation, legal emancipation. Paula Reid is standing by for us at the White House to break this all down. So, Paula, Kellyanne Conway has played such an outsized role in the administration. She's credited, as you know, with helping push the Trump campaign over the finish line to victory back in 2016. What kind of impact will her departure have?
Well, as you noted, Vlad, she is the first woman to run a successful presidential campaign. She is one of the Trump originals here at the White House. She's one of his top advisors, and she's really one of the most experienced political hands here at the White House. As you know, there's lots of folks here in the Trump White House who have little to no political experience, but Kellyanne Conway's been in the game a long time. But the way that she has used that experience and her skills is the subject of some debate. There are some broadcasts and outlets that will not use her because they feel that she uses, to borrow a phrase from her, alternative facts, that she's not always honest. But she is one of the president's most strident defenders. She would never miss an opportunity to stop and speak with reporters here on the White House North Lawn. But, Vlad, some of those interactions, they would devolve into her lobbing sometimes very personal attacks against reporters. So again, her relationship with the press has been complicated. But during her time here in the Trump administration, she spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, especially pre-COVID, on the opioid crisis. I remember seeing her at the Justice Department on multiple occasions. That was a cause that was very important to her. She was deep in the weeds on that policy, could answer a lot of questions, and that, I think, will also be an important part of her legacy.
So we got to sort of get through a lot of topics with you. So I want to ask you about this. The Food and Drug Administration has announced emergency authorization for the use of plasma as a treatment for COVID-19. The president made the announcement on the eve of the Republican convention, but it's sparking a little bit of controversy. What can you tell us?
Oh, well, you really hit it right there, Anne-Marie. Part of the controversy is the fact that the president came out just hours before the Republican National Convention kicks off, and he announced this expedited authorization for this therapy, insisting that this was a historic development in the fight against COVID. He called it, quote, safe and very effective. But the fact is that the medical research is not clear on whether this plasma treatment is actually effective against the virus. Even the president's own former FDA chief, Scott Gottlieb, he's told Face the Nation that he believes that this is just an incremental development, that this is actually not a significant breakthrough. So putting this in context, there are concerns that the president was trying to push this forward so that he had a good, positive announcement to make ahead of the RNC. And we know the president has a history of making sort of false optimistic projections and false announcements related to COVID, including suggesting that it would just disappear, suggesting that hydroxychloroquine was going to be sort of a miracle treatment. So here, putting this in context, I mean, I think that we should really just defer to the former FDA chief. This is incremental, but it is not, according to the medical experts, as the president has touted, this is not necessarily a big historic breakthrough.
So let's talk about this, Paula. You know that the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, was on CBS this morning earlier, and our colleague Tony DeCopel asked him about where things stand with the economic stimulus negotiations. Let me play a bit of that response.
Well, I think what we can agree on right now, and what Democrats, Republicans in Congress and the president could agree on right now, is enhanced unemployment benefits. We could get there. We could also get there on school aid, on the hundreds of billions of dollars going to schools K through 12. We could get there on additional assistance for small businesses, what they call the PPP program. We could actually get there on that. And we could actually get there on plussing up food stamps for some of those that have been hit hard by this, along with eviction protection. Those 4 or 5 items we agree upon.
So Meadows sounding pretty optimistic there, Paula. What's the reality?
Yeah, the reality is that after weeks and weeks of negotiations, the two sides do not appear to be anywhere near coming to a deal. The White House continues to insist they want a skinny deal. They want to try to come to an agreement on a few issues and then come back to the table. The House Speaker has been pretty clear that she does not want a skinny deal because she's afraid that if they give them a few things that they want, make a few compromises, that they'll never come back to the table to hash out some of the other issues. We know the president has taken executive action to try to address some of this, for example, on a payroll tax deferral. But a lot of businesses came out and said they didn't want to do that it just didn't work for them because, again, it's not a payroll tax cut. It was a payroll tax deferral. The president has promised to make that permanent, but as we know, he cannot actually issue tax cuts. Only Congress can do that. He also extended unemployment benefits, but some states opted not to buy into that, not to either give money, give additional funding to provide those benefits, or not to opt in to that program at all. The president also issued relief on student loans and mortgage relief to protect some people from evictions. The eviction relief, it's not clear how successful that has been, and there has not, to my knowledge, been any additional guidance on student loans. So the White House has tried to issue some relief. At this point, there really has been no broad second round of stimulus relief for those financially impacted by COVID because the two sides just cannot come to an agreement. And now they're also going back and forth on this issue of additional funding for the Postal Service, but there just does not actually seem to be any progress between the two sides, no matter what the chief of staff says they would be willing to agree to. It just doesn't appear realistically that they are likely to come to an agreement anytime soon. The closer they get to the election, the less likely it seems.
Paula Reid, thank you so much.